Adelbert Schulz was born on December 20, 1903, in Berlin, the capital of the German Empire. He grew up in a time when the world around him was changing quickly. The German Empire was strong and proud when he was a boy, but by the time he became a teenager, the First World War had torn it apart. Like many boys of his generation, Schulz saw his country lose the war and then fall into economic and political chaos. The Treaty of Versailles had stripped Germany of its power, its army was cut down, and millions of people faced poverty. These events shaped the young Adelbert and helped form the ideas that would guide him in his adult life. Schulz was not from a noble or famous family. He was a regular German who found purpose in the structure and discipline of the military. When he was old enough, he joined the Reichswehr, the small post-war German army that the Treaty of Versailles allowed to exist. This army was limited to only 100,000 men, but it attracted some of the most ambitious and capable officers in Germany. They knew that if the nation ever rose again, they would be the ones to lead it. Schulz learned tactics, leadership, and engineering, and he proved to be intelligent and hardworking. When Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany began rebuilding its military in secret, then openly. The old restrictions were ignored, and the country prepared once again for war. For soldiers like Schulz, this was a time of opportunity. The army was expanding, new technology was being developed, and promotions came quickly for those who showed talent. Schulz's calm personality, strong organization, and ability to lead men helped him stand out. He became an officer in the fast-growing armored forces that would later become famous as the Panzer Divisions. By the time the Second World War began in September 1939, Schulz was an experienced officer. Germany invaded Poland, and the world was plunged into another global conflict. The German army moved with speed and power, using tanks, planes, and motorized infantry in a new kind of warfare called blitzkrieg. Schulz's unit took part in this style of fighting, where mobility and coordination were everything. He learned how to use tanks not just as heavy weapons, but as a way to strike fast and surprise the enemy. In 1940, Schulz served during the invasion of France. The campaign lasted only a few weeks, and the German victory shocked the world. The French army was considered one of the best in Europe, but it fell quickly under the German attack. Schulz gained valuable experience in the field and showed that he could handle the pressure of modern war. His performance earned him recognition, and he began to move up the ranks. When Germany turned east in 1941 to invade the Soviet Union, Schulz went with the 7th Panzer Division, one of the most famous units in the German army. This division had once been commanded by Erwin Rommel, who later became known as the Desert Fox. The 7th Panzer Division was fast, aggressive, and well-trained. It was part of Army Group Center, which was ordered to advance deep into Soviet territory toward Moscow. The fighting in the east was brutal. The distances were enormous, the weather was extreme, and the Soviet resistance was fierce. Schulz proved himself again and again in the chaos. He led his men in attacks that broke through enemy lines, captured important positions, and destroyed many Soviet vehicles. He was known for leading from the front, often riding in his own tank, exposed to danger but determined to see everything with his own eyes. His soldiers respected him for his courage and calmness under fire. In 1941, his achievements earned him the Iron Cross, one of Germany's highest military awards. As the war continued, he received more honors, including the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross and later, oak leaves, swords, and diamonds to go with it. Each addition to the medal represented further acts of bravery and leadership. Very few soldiers in the German army received all 4 levels of the award. Despite the honors, Schulz's life at the front was far from glamorous. The conditions in the Soviet Union were terrible. The soldiers lived in mud, snow, and freezing temperatures. Supplies were often short, and the constant fighting wore everyone down. The initial victories turned into long struggles against a determined enemy. As the years passed, the German army suffered heavy losses, and the tide of the war began to turn. By 1943, the Soviet army was growing stronger, while the Germans were being pushed back. Schulz continued to fight with the same energy as before, but the situation was increasingly desperate. He took command of the entire 7th Panzer Division after its previous commander was killed. This was a major responsibility. He now had to manage thousands of men, hundreds of tanks, and complex operations under constant attack. Even under pressure, Schulz remained calm and methodical. He was known for carefully planning his moves and avoiding unnecessary risks, but he was also willing to act decisively when the situation required it. He earned the respect of both his men and his superiors. His division continued to fight effectively even when outnumbered, often delaying the Soviet advance and buying time for other units to retreat or regroup. Schulz was not a political figure. He was a professional soldier focused on his duty. Like many officers of his generation, he was loyal to the army, not necessarily to the Nazi Party, though he served under its government. The line between loyalty to the country and loyalty to the regime was often blurred for men in his position. What mattered most to him seemed to be leading his men and doing his job well, no matter the circumstances. In early 1944, the 7th Panzer Division was stationed near Vitebsk in Belarus. The front was collapsing under massive Soviet offensives. Schulz continued to lead from the front, directing counterattacks and trying to stabilize the situation. On January 28, 1944, he was inspecting his troops near the front line when his vehicle was hit by enemy fire. He was killed instantly. He was only 40 years old. His death was a heavy blow to his division. Many of his soldiers saw him as the heart of the unit. News of his death spread quickly, and even among his enemies, there was a certain recognition of his skill and bravery. In the final days of his life, he was promoted to the rank of General Major and was posthumously awarded the Knight's Cross with diamonds, the highest level of that decoration. At the time, only a handful of men in the entire German military had ever received it. Adelbert Schulz's story is not just about one man's courage, but also about the nature of war itself. He was a talented leader, respected by his peers and loved by his soldiers, yet he fought for a cause that ultimately brought destruction to his country and to millions of others. His life shows the complexity of individual duty within a larger, often tragic, historical context. The 7th Panzer Division continued to fight after his death, but the German army was no longer capable of turning the tide. In 1945, the war ended with Germany's defeat. The cities lay in ruins, and the army that Schulz had served was destroyed. Those who survived were left to rebuild their lives and reflect on what had happened. Schulz's legacy is one of professionalism and bravery in combat, but it is also a reminder that even the most capable soldiers cannot change the moral direction of a war. He represented the type of officer who fought hard, not out of ideology, but out of a sense of duty and loyalty to his comrades. In this way, he was similar to many soldiers on all sides of the conflict, men caught in events far larger than themselves. Today, military historians remember Adelbert Schulz as one of the most skilled tank commanders of the German army. His career was relatively short but intense, covering the most active years of the Second World War. He rose from a regular officer to a general in less than 5 years, a reflection of both his talent and the desperate speed of wartime promotions. His actions on the battlefield were studied later by military analysts interested in armored warfare tactics, especially his ability to coordinate tanks and infantry in fluid, fast-moving situations. Yet it is important to see him not as a legend, but as a human being. Behind the medals and victories was a man who faced fear, exhaustion, and loss every day. He saw many of his friends and soldiers die. He lived through a war that destroyed entire nations. His courage was real, but so was the suffering that surrounded him. In the end, he shared the fate of millions of others who fought on the Eastern Front, a sudden death far from home, in a land filled with smoke, fire, and snow. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought on Adelbert Schulz, drop it in a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.